Many people in our community have lost a loved one to drug overdose, and now the state of Minnesota has created a map to help people find the antidote. Jim Reber is here with Christy Engelstead, joining me to show me Naloxone, which is a medication you can administer if someone is in the midst of an overdose, but more importantly, how to safely administer it to someone. There is a lot to this. So first, can you tell me what is Naloxone?
Naloxone is a medication that was derived to counteract opioids. So when someone has an overdose from too much, they've taken too much drugs, they're going to go into respiratory failure, and eventually will stop breathing and pass away from it. If we can get the Naloxone to them in a timely manner, that reverses and blocks the effects of it so that we can get them to start breathing again and get them restored to a functional level, and then be able to get them into treatment to help them to continue breathing.
And I think a lot of people are actually more familiar with the term Narcan. What is the difference? Is it the same thing?
It's the same thing. It's just a different classification of whether it's a generic name or a commercial name.
And our first responders carry these as well.
Yep, most of the first responders, law enforcement. Steve's law was passed several years ago that allows first responders, police, fire, EMS to all use it. General public can get it and use it. They're protected by immunities from using it. It's a very, very safe drug to use to provide an opportunity to save somebody.
Sure, and I will say I've had other jobs before this, and even in those jobs we did do Narcan training, because you never know, especially when you work with the general public, if there's going to be a situation where you need to administer it, or even if maybe you have a loved one that you think might have an addiction or does have an addiction. It's good to just keep it on hand. So let's kind of talk about how do we administer it, and also what do we need to know if we're going to administer it?
So Narcan is really easy to use. It's really easy to administer. Basically, if you think somebody has overdosed with an opioid, Narcan is the best thing for them. And it comes in a little canister, a little spray thing like this, and it goes in their nose. So you just open it up. There are directions in there. If you need to use them, you certainly can.
Maybe read them ahead of time.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah.
But you just take this out, and then you're going to put it in the nose and then squirt. And you can't mess up, really. It's really easy.
Right.
So I can come right down here, just put it right there, and then squirt.
Yeah, you can hear it too.
Yep.
Wow.
Very easy.
Okay, so somebody's going through an overdose. We've got it. We've just administered it. What do we need to know?
The most important part right now is that if they're not breathing adequately, they probably aren't, because their breathing has been suppressed by this. We need to give them rescue breathing to get the medication circulating in their system, and then be able to monitor them. If after 2 minutes, if they're not coming around, then you'll give them a second dose. And then the most important thing for people to understand is that once even they start waking up, you don't want to leave them, because they can revert back. Some of the drugs are more powerful than the Narcan. So after a period of time, if there's still enough drug in their system, they can revert back and still stop breathing again. So you want to make sure they're monitored for, I would say 4 to 6 hours. We like them to come in the hospital so we can evaluate them, check them out, make sure that they're okay. But if not, at least make sure they're with responsible people who have more Narcan available and can keep a close eye on them to make sure that they stay stable and are safe.
And obviously, we just did a CPR episode last week. Make sure you call 911 or yell to somebody to call 911, because this is deadly. It is a very deadly situation, and the Narcan is it's one tool to try to keep them alive. It is not everything. So if you could, maybe for some of us who have not personally experienced someone going into an overdose, what does that look like?
Well, generally, they're going to become very sleepy, very drowsy. Their breathing is going to slow down. They're not going to be responsive. You're going to shake and try and wake them up. They're not going to wake up, or they might be, like I said, it'll appear like they're in a very, very deep sleep that you can't bring them out of. They might have some bluish discoloration around their face, their lips, their hands, because of their low oxygen levels in their body is decreasing. So as soon as you get something like that, you try and shake them and wake them up. If you can't wake them up, then you would move into the Narcan administration, try and find out what they've taken. Call 911, because from our standpoint with emergency response, we want to get there, check them out. You're protected under Steve's law in Minnesota, that if you're a party to what's going on, you can't be prosecuted for calling to get help. So it's very important that get help. If you have Narcan, give them Narcan. At least let us assess them and make sure that they're doing okay and stable and don't have other things going on with them.
And I know that, you know, in Minnesota, as well as in a lot of places in the country, there is an opioid pandemic, unfortunately. What you just saw on your screen was a map. It's actually through the Minnesota Department of Health. You can search, if you search online, Naloxone map, and then you can click on Finder, and then it shows you all of the places that are near you. So they'd click on that little button down there that's kind of an oval shape, but it shows you, you'll scroll down, it's got a map, it shows you everyone in your community who has Naloxone. Then you can call them just to make sure they have it on hand, run down there, grab some, and just hang on to it. Also, if you know somebody that's maybe going through a crisis, you can contact the suicide prevention hotline or the crisis text line if you're worried about something before it happens. That's a good way to do that. Once it happens, maybe call 911. But stay with us. Coming up next, we have Dr. Pepper. Have you guys seen Married at First Sight? I'm obsessed with it. Dr. Pepper joins us. She's going to talk about confidence in women and an app that can help.